Live to take you through an item as usual. Like I always say, I'm here to simplify for you the hard concepts and to give you more clue about the simple concepts. I cannot forget to remind you that chemistry and biology were made the simplest. I think it is evident even in the items we always do. I'm streaming in live today to take you through a practical item that is from biology, from part of the syllabus. Very simple item, but we need to pay attention. Like I always tell you, don't cram, understand. The item is from nutrition, and specifically the activities of enzymes. We are going to investigate some of the properties of enzymes that actually affect the activities of these active substances, the enzymes in general. These practicals, like we always say, they are simple. Just understand and know how to apply the theory concept you read or they teach you. The item is already in the description of the video in our WhatsApp group as well as the website. It is already uploaded there if you want a PDF. The item is as follows. Vum Fabrics is a textile company that deals in mass production of cotton threads. They grow their own cotton. On harvesting, the cotton is bleached by soaking it in hydrogen peroxide. However, the traces of hydrogen peroxide that remains in the cotton usually lower the quality of the threads to the extent that they are very weak and break easily. The set of the item continued by saying that to improve the quality of the threads, the company soaks the cotton in extract P after the bleaching process, which contains an active substance that catalyzes the hydrolysis of the traces of hydrogen peroxide in the cotton as follows. So there is an equation there that the hydrogen peroxide they use as a bleaching agent is hydrolyzed to water and oxygen gas. And in the equation, it is also stated that the reaction is catalyzed by the active substance in P. So, however, they continued and said, the company manager has discovered that the activities of the active substance in P is affected by pH and temperature changes. So they have mentioned the two factors affected by pH and then temperature changes. As one of the employees, you have been appointed by the manager. having heard that you have some biology knowledge. You are provided with hydrogen peroxide solution, extract P, dilute hydrochloric acid, sodium hydroxide solution, and the laboratory equipment required. And the task is, as a biology learner, carry out an experiment to help the company manager make the best choice of conditions required for optimum activities of active substance in extract P. So that is the item. The item is already in the description of the video. As well, we cannot fail to welcome Don. Don is always with us. Good afternoon to you. Sabuf Musa is with us as usual. Good afternoon to you. Lord Kiria is with us. Good afternoon to you. Mary is with us. Good afternoon to you. As we continue, we said there are some qualities they expect in a response. We remember them. We said we have to state the aim. I know you know that. You can put the order of a response, the aim. We have the hypothesis, the variables if needed, the requirements. We remember that. We remember we have to state the procedures. We have to state any risk or sources of error and their mitigations. We have to give results. We have to give a conclusion based on results, an explanation of the results, and finally give a recommendation based on the explanation made. I think this is the order of a chemistry response. Of a biology response, a practical response. So one has to give the aim, the hypothesis, the variables, the requirements, the procedures, the risks and mitigations, the results, the conclusions, the explanations, and the recommendations. I remember in the previous videos, if you started with us in the practical sessions, we described the qualities of a good response in line with all these ones. What do they want? To cut the story short, this item, they are telling us it is a reaction. This company, whatever the name is Vum Fabrics of the company. For them, they make cotton. When they have harvested the cotton, it is always not so white. But they make this cotton white, almost white, by bleaching it. Bleaching means removing color. And this bleaching process, they are saying that they soak the cotton in hydrogen peroxide for some time. The hydrogen peroxide removes those pigments from the cotton. But they are telling us that sometimes this hydrogen, there are traces of hydrogen peroxides that remain in the cotton. And they are telling us that this hydrogen peroxide, when when it remains in the cotton, they usually, the threads they get are usually very weak. And the customers claim that these threads break easily. So the manager came up with an idea of soaking. After bleaching, they got an extract, they say they called it P, in which they soak the bleached cotton for some time to remove this, as the active substance in this extract P catalyzes the breakdown or the hydrolysis of this hydrogen peroxide to form water and oxygen gas, which I think the manager thinks these ones are harmless to the cotton threads, and they can even easily be removed. This one escapes as a gas, and this one can easily be removed by drying the cotton. So the manager also discovered that the hydrolysis of this hydrogen peroxide under the effect of this active substance in P is affected by temperature and pH changes. But the manager is not aware of the extent. So we are here to help the manager make the best choices of conditions. The conditions they are talking of are these factors: the pH and the temperature. Under which ranges of temperature shouldn't they carry out this process of removing these traces of hydrogen peroxide using P? So here we have the extracts. We have the extract P they use. This is the extract P. This is sodium hydroxide. We can see it. This is hydrochloric acid, and this is the hydrogen peroxide they use to bleach the cotton. And other apparatus, like the test tubes we have here, boiling tubes, the measuring cylinder that we may need to measure the volumes if needed. You may need to measure time, you never know. So all these are availed. To cut the story short, in a practical, there are process skill practicals. You can ask for any apparatus you may need that is not availed. You may ask for it. We have to state the aim. So let's start with the response. The aim, we have to state the reason why we are going to carry out this investigation. What is the reason? It comes from the scenario. It should contain all the key things in the scenario. What is the topic of investigation? Is the activity of this. What is that activity? Hydrolysis of this. Is there any factor that is mentioned in the question? They are talking of pH and temperature changes. So what should be the aim? What does the manager want? So I'm going to give mine, but also give. Don't take my direction. You can only also think of your direction. So mine is an experiment investigate the effect of pH and the temperature on the activities of the active substance in extract P. According to me, you can also develop yours. This is mine according to the scenario. According to me, this is the aim, and my hypothesis is as follows. You can suggest yours, you can suggest your direction, but I think the examiner or the set of this item was targeting the effect of pH and the effect of pH and temperature changes. So we can give a direction. We expect or results. We can predict results of the investigation. And we said a prediction may be true or false. So don't worry that I gave a false hypothesis. According to me, my hypothesis will be, based on the scenario, increase and decrease Are we back? Can you hear me, please? If yes, say yes. Are we back? Can you hear me, please? If yes. Great. So the dependent variable, we say are the results of the investigation. To repeat for you, due to the sound loss, this hydrogen peroxide is among the toxic wastes that the body forms during metabolism. Being toxic to cells, the body always does its best to eliminate it from it. And the body has an enzyme called the catalyse. This catalyse enzyme, the only purpose it has in the cells is to catalyze the first hydrolysis of hydrogen peroxide to form water that is a liquid and harmless to the cells, and then oxygen. It is the oxygen in our investigations that is going to be seen as bubbles being formed. So the observation or the results of the investigation or the dependent variable may be on the number of bubbles formed in each set of the experiment. All these bubbles sometimes forms a froth. The bubbles forms a froth above the reacting solution. The reacting solution is now between this hydrogen peroxide and the extract P. So we can as well, if we don't want to give that predictable result or results that are just predicting, for example, stating many bubbles, few bubbles, we may decide to measure the length of the froth formed after a certain amount of time, because we brought in time. So in my experiment, I'm going to measure a froth or the length of froth formed after a given period of time. I don't want to use the other one, many bubbles, few bubbles, moderate bubbles. I want to give the extent to which the bubbles are formed by giving measurements. So my dependent variable is going to be length of the froth formed. But as well, if you're not able to do what I'm going to do, your dependent variable can as well be the number of bubbles formed. And the number of bubbles formed may be many, may be moderate, may be few, may be very few, may be no bubbles being formed. If you depend on numbers, these are the observations, the dependent variables. So the observations in terms of numbers, if your dependent variable is number of bubbles formed, the bubbles may be many, moderate in number, moderate bubbles formed, few bubbles formed, very few bubbles formed, no bubbles formed in number. As well, we may as well talk about the rate of formation of bubbles as our observation. We now record the rate of formation of the bubbles. Like you can give the observation or the dependent variable as fast rate of formation of bubbles, slow rate of formation of bubbles, moderate rate of formation of bubbles. So the dependent variable will depend on your choice. So I've given you many options as rates of formation of bubbles, where we can give a high rate of formation of bubbles. You can say moderate rate of formation of bubbles, slow rate of formation of bubbles, very slow rate of formation of bubbles, or you can as well give your results as no bubbles formed. So this is if the dependent variable is rate of formation of bubbles. So if the dependent variable was number of bubbles formed, you can talk about the number of bubbles formed that way. You may not be able to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For I may decide to give my dependent variable as length of the froth formed. Length of the froth formed. And I record the length formed after a certain period of time. As well, someone may record the volume of froth formed. So there are very many dependent variables for this experiment. You may decide what is simpler for you, and we've mentioned them: number, rate of formation of bubbles, volume of froth formed, length of froth formed. I'm going to take length of froth formed after a given amount of time. I'm going to set a standard time for each investigation. So I'm going to take my time for this. I'll give 30 seconds. The 30 seconds may be few. Let me take 40 seconds. I'll record the length of the froth formed after 40 seconds. Is jelly on? Jelly, are you on? Jelly? Jelly, I can't hear you. I don't know if you're on. Banex, Idrin, are you on? Idrin, haven't seen you yet. So to continue, I'm going to take my dependent variables that I've given you the extent or the expected dependent variables and their expected observations. When you use this, what should come to your mind as your observation? To continue, we are to give requirements. And for my always separate apparatus from the materials. According to what I have, there is measuring volume. Volume of what? Hydrogen peroxide, measuring volume of the extract, volume of sodium hydroxide, and the volume of hydrochloric acid. So I will need measuring cylinders, but how many? State the number. I will need one for hydrogen peroxide, one for the extract, one for sodium hydroxide, one for HCl in the first set. Or I may use one to measure hydrogen peroxide, clean it, I use it to measure sodium hydroxide after. Let me think I'm clear. So let me take 4 measuring cylinders if the school can provide. I can have one and then show it clearly that I will clean after every use. I will need how many test tubes? Let me first take a timer. I will use a stopwatch because I have to determine time for the reaction. I've talked of the 40 seconds. I will need I'm going to talk of, I'm going to vary temperature. For temperature, I will boil. I will just boil for some time. I will need a heat source to vary the temperature. So I will need the heat source. I will need a ruler to measure length, because for me, I'm going to measure length of a froth formed after a certain amount of time. I will need test tubes, but how many? I will need a test tube holder, since there is a procedure of boiling to vary temperature. I think we are following. For the test tubes, I will need one where I will use neutral pH as my control experiment. That is one where I will put sodium hydroxide with the reacting extract and hydrogen peroxide, so hydrochloric acid, and one with boiled extract. So I will need how many? How many are those? So I will need about 4 test tubes. Still, I will need extract P. I will need hydrogen peroxide. I will need sodium hydroxide solution, and then dilute hydrochloric acid as my requirements. I'll take those ones as my requirements. So the next step is giving procedures. The procedures to be followed. So what I will do will be something very simple. I have my test tube rack here. I'm sorry, I will only need 4 test tubes. 1, 2, 3, 4. The others will remain. I'm not going to use them. I'm going to use these first 4 test tubes. My procedures for such experiments. So what I will do, I will measure my hydrogen peroxide, transfer it into these. I'll transfer this hydrogen peroxide into these 4 test tubes. I think equal volumes. I'll first label the test tubes as any unknowns I will use in the table. So in test tube 1, I will add, in test tube 1, I'll add nothing. In test tube 2, I'll add, there is hydrogen peroxide. I will then add sodium hydroxide to it, to the hydrogen peroxide. In test tube 3, I'll add hydrochloric acid. And then I'll leave also test tube 4 with only hydrogen peroxide. So I'll actually also need the boiling tube because I'm going to boil. I will have to boil extract P. So I will need one boiling tube. So I will start now measuring the extract. I have the extract. I'm giving you a plan because you have to plan before you write. What you present on paper should be a reflection of what you've already thought of. Not to get in the way and plan again. You only have one copy of the paper. They will not give you any other copy. So I'll use a boiling tube to boil a certain volume of extract P. I'll boil it to now bring in the factor of temperature on the active substance. Because remember, they are telling us that the active substance is in this extract P. To continue, after doing that, I will now start transferring equal volumes of active substance, of the extract P, to each of these test tubes prepared. I will start with 1. When I add that volume of the extract, I will give it time. I will immediately start the stopwatch and determine the amount of froth formed after 40 seconds. I will put it back. I'll get the second, which has hydrogen peroxide and sodium hydroxide in it. I'll put equal volume of the extract like I used in A and start the stop clock again. Determine the amount of froth formed after, in terms of length, 40 seconds. I'll put it back after that. I'll also measure another equal volume of the extract into the third test tube with hydrogen peroxide and hydrochloric acid this time. I'll add equal volume like I used in the first 2 test tubes of the extract. I start the stop clock immediately, determine the length of the froth that will be formed after 40 seconds. And then in the fourth, if I chose fourth, in the fourth test tube, I will add nothing. I will not add sodium hydroxide or hydrochloric acid. There will only be hydrogen peroxide, identical to the first one, but this time I will not put unboiled extract P. I will this time use the other one. I boiled it, but I will use the same volume again. So my first step is going to be boiling the extract such that I have 2 samples of extract P. Let me prepare my heat source here, boil briefly such that we move on with ease. Please don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not yet a member. For us, we use this I'm going to light it up. I'm going to boil part of the extract. I don't want us to say that we got things from heaven. I want us to carry out this investigation together. Follow every step, because at your table you will be alone. You will not have. So I have my test tube holder here. I'm going to boil part of the extract from which I will measure using one of the test tube. So I'm allowing time for my stove. Stop bringing out soot. So I'm going to boil part of the extract. I think this will be enough. So make sure that the test tube or boiling tube is firmly held by the holder. Slant it slightly. Don't point it to your neighbor or in yourself. Don't hit it on the surface of the heat source. I'm boiling the extract, a sample of the extract. I'm boiling it for some time. Don't forget to like the video if you really like what we do. Don't forget to share to your friends. Other school members or classmates, don't forget to like to join us in the group. So I've boiled the sample, that is our sample. So I've started with boiling such that I can let the boiled sample cool. As you share your expected observations, your expected procedures. Yeah, something. I'm putting the stove off. Correct. So we have a boiled sample here. I'm now going to prepare the 3 test tubes, putting equal volumes of hydrogen peroxide. So my choice of hydrogen peroxide, this is my hydrogen peroxide. I'm going to use 2 cubic centimeters. Let me use 2 cubic centimeters. You can decide to use 1. So that is test tube 2. I'll give my test tubes unknown. My test tube 3. I don't want this factor of volume to be another independent variable that is bringing about different results. This is my test tube 4. So I have 4 cases where I have hydrogen peroxide. In test tube, this, we said that this one is going to remain the way it is. I'm just going to add an extract. I'm going to use equal volumes. I'll still use the same volume. So I'll use the same volume of the extract. In test tube 1, I will just add a certain volume of the extract. I will still use 2 cubic centimeters of the extract. In all, so in test tube 1, 2, 3, I'll use a fresh or unboiled extract. Where in test tube 1, 2, 3, I'll be investigating the factor of pH. So I'll add nothing like is affecting the pH in 1. I will make this one alkaline by adding sodium hydroxide, and I will make this one acidic by adding hydrochloric acid. So for the first 3 test tubes, I will be investigating pH. And the last one, I will be investigating the effect of changing temperature on the activities of the active substance in extract P. That's why I started by boiling the extract. So my first procedure to be in line now, I will start by boiling the extract such that I give it enough time to cool. So I will start by, I'll boil part of the extract, I will say. Based on what I was given, I will boil, because I need only 2 cubic centimeters. Let me think of water that will evaporate. Let me boil 6 cubic centimeters. 6.0 cubic centimeters of extract P were boiled in a boiling tube and allowed to cool. So I've started by boiling so that I can give this extract time to cool. Why? Because we cannot use a test tube when it is hot. Then I will prepare the test tubes. I'll start now preparing the test tubes. 4 test tubes were labeled A, B, C, and D, and 2.0 cubic centimeters of hydrogen peroxide were added to each. We are now writing. What I did is what I'm now writing. So I have 3 test tubes. I have, this is my A, B, C, and D. So in order, this is my A, B, C, and D. I'm not going to use the label slips now. I already have the labels on my rack. So I'm naming them in their order. Otio. Please, if you're writing, don't lab this one off. Don't lab this one from your books. I'm getting space where to write. After that, I'm now going to change to vary the pH for test tubes B and C. I'll add 2 cubic centimeters. I will say 2.0 cubic centimeters of sodium hydroxide. Let me add drops actually. Let me add drops. Let me use a dropper. I'll add 4 drops of sodium hydroxide. Remember, as it is a solution, were added to test tube B, and 4 drops of dilute hydroxide were added to test tube C. So in the 2 test tubes, B and C, I've varied the pH. This one is now alkaline. I've provided an alkaline pH. In this one, I've left it, I've changed it to acidic pH. So in test tube, this is my hydrochloric acid. I'll get my dropper. Where's my test tube C? It is this one. I'll make sure I add 4 drops. That is 1, 2, 3, 4. Shake to ensure mixing. So that is hydrochloric acid. And in this one, in B, I'm going to add 4 drops. Sorry. Let me get a clean one. So in test tube B, in test tube B, this is my B. I will as well add 4 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm now providing pH. I'm varying the pH. Now in this one, there is sodium hydroxide with hydrogen peroxide. In this one, there is hydrochloric acid and hydrogen peroxide. I've left this one without adding anything. So the pH is neutral here, alkaline here, acidic here. Even here, the pH is neutral. So the next step, after varying the pH, I'll start with test tube 1. To test tube A, B, and C were added 2.0 cubic centimeters of extract P and stopwatch was started immediately. I think we have moving. To test tube D was added 2.0 cubic centimeters of boiled, actually of unboiled here, of unboiled extract P. Here was added 2.0 cubic centimeters of boiled extract, P, and stopwatch was started as well. And we cannot forget that we are measuring the observation, the dependent variables now being brought in. The length let's bring in at a time here. Do you know why we are bringing in at a time? We are going to handle each test tube at its own space of time. When we handle this one, we shall be adding to this one later, to this one later, like that. To this one, after the time, the length of the froth, was measured. The length of the froth formed, let us bring in time now, formed after 40.0 seconds was measured. What did we use? Using a ruler and in each test tube was recorded. This is what we are going to write. This is what we are going to do now. We are going to start with this. We are going to use we are going to, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like the video if you really like what we do. So we are going to start with test tube A, where we added only hydrogen peroxide. We didn't vary the condition. I'm now measuring 2 cubic centimeters of the extract. I'm adding 2 cubic centimeters. I'm adding 2 cubic centimeters, and I will start the stopwatch immediately. So on adding the 2 cubic centimeters, I've started. I'm going to record the length of the froth formed using my ruler after 40 seconds. So far, I'm in 20 seconds. That is 22 seconds. I'll record There. So it is right here. I'll measure the length from the top of the solution. So what is my volume of the froth from here where I'm holding the length of the froth? Let's measure it together. Make sure, let me put it on a flat table such that I don't slant it. The length from where I'm holding to where it is 1 point. Actually, I'm not using the centimeter side. The length of the froth from the start to where I'm holding, it is 2.2 centimeters. Where I'm holding, it's where the 30 of the 40 seconds made it. So the length is from the start of the end of the solution, the length of the froth is 1.6. So I'll prepare my table of results. In test tube A, the length of the froth is 1.6 centimeters. After 40 seconds, I'll stop my timer and then rewind it. I think you've seen the froth forming. This is the froth I'm talking about. I'll again measure another 2 cubic centimeters. Now I'm going to test tube B, 2 cubic centimeters. So I'm going to B. Immediately I add, I will start my stopwatch. Don't forget to subscribe, to like, if you really like, to invite your friends. Don't forget to comment so that we can improve our services. So I'll hold where the froth ends. So this is with sodium hydroxide. So there, I think we can see. I won't use eyes. I've held where the froth has ended. So I'll measure the length of the froth. I'm measuring the length of the froth. I think we can see from the point of the solution to where the froth is, it is almost 1. I think we can see that. With test tube B, with B, the length of the froth is 1.0 centimeters. When we go to test tube C, I'll rewind my stopwatch. This is my test tube C. I'll add the extract. I've added the extract. I've started my stopwatch. I'll determine the froth, the length of the froth formed after that time. I think we are seeing the factors. We are investigating. We are about to measure the froth length. I'm so far seeing none of the bubbles coming out. Yeah, there. Do we see any bubble there? I think the length is 0.00. The length of the froth formed in 40 seconds for test tube C, the length is 0.0 centimeters. So I'm going to prepare the table where we are going to put our results. I'll stop my stopwatch and rewind it. We are now going to test the tube. I will not use this time to measure the volume of froth. To measure the extract, I'm going to use this one. I'm going to measure only 2 of the boiled, because they told us in test tube D, we are to add 2.0 cubic centimeters of the boiled extract P. So I'm going to measure using this one. So this is my 2. I'm transferring it to test tube. And start my stop clock immediately. So the bubbles in 40 seconds. I think after 40 seconds, same issue with D. With C. With D, again 0.0 cubic centimeters. We are seeing the results and we're seeing the factors that are affecting the active or the activities of active substance in B. So I'm going to have our results. I will not give you the risks and mitigation. We can develop the sources of error. The sources of error for this. Where do we expect errors? Where do we expect the risks? Which risks? Contact with the hot stove. You've seen me using a stove. You can put the risks and mitigation in the comment section. I'll go through them by the end of this. So my results, I'll use these results to even give the conclusion so that outside the table will give the analysis. I'll give the table with a test tube, observation. My observation is length. For you, if your observation was about number of bubbles, I think here we have very many bubbles in A. Very many bubbles formed in B. Many or moderate number of many or moderate bubbles formed. No bubbles formed. No bubbles formed. So I think for number of bubbles, the observation will be that. For the other one who used the rate of formation of bubbles, this one will be fast or high rate of formation of bubbles, moderate rate of formation of bubbles, No bubbles formed. No bubbles formed. I think we are following. My observation, I will not use yours. My observation was about length of froth formed. And the length is always measured in centimeters. And I'll give a corresponding conclusion here. If you don't call it conclusion, we say you can as well call it deduction. So for test tube A, where there is hydrogen peroxide plus extract P plus hydrogen peroxide. Please don't write abbreviations like mine. You describe that test tube well. Describe it well. I got my length of froth as 1.6. This is indicating high rate. So the conclusion is about the rate of decomposition of the substrate. Now, the substrate is hydrogen peroxide. So high rate of decomposition. Actually, in the scenario, they used hydrolysis. High rate of hydrolysis of hydrogen peroxide. So the deduction or conclusion is about the rate of the breakdown of the substrate. Which substrate is hydrogen peroxide now? For test tube B, where there is hydrogen peroxide, don't forget the amount, 2 cubic centimeters of hydrogen peroxide and 2 cubic centimeters of P plus 4 drops of sodium hydroxide plus 2 cubic centimeters of extract P. I'm giving the description of what is in the test tube. My observation or result was as 1.0 as the length of the froth. So here, this is indicating, based on the first result, this is moderate rate of hydrolysis of hydrogen peroxide. Your observation is about rate of formation of bubbles. If you decided to give rate of the formation of bubbles, here it could be very fast rate of formation of bubbles, moderate rate of formation of bubbles, no bubbles formed, no bubbles formed. Or if it was number of bubbles formed, you could say many bubbles formed, moderate number of bubbles formed, very few bubbles, no bubbles formed, no bubbles formed. I think we are following. So the deduction is about rate of hydrolysis of the substrate, rate of breakdown of the substrate. So for test tube C, where I have 2 cubic centimeters of hydrogen peroxide, describe the test tube well, plus 4 drops, right in full, of hydrochloric acid, plus 2 cubic centimeters of extract P. Write these statements in full. I'm summarizing them. I got my length of a froth as 0.0. And this is an indication that there is no hydrolysis of hydrogen peroxide. Members, this is for these ones, include the word unboiled. Unboiled, even here. Unboiled, even here. Unboiled extract P. But for test tube D, there is hydrogen peroxide plus 2 cubic centimeters of boiled extract P. So there is 2 cubic centimeters of hydrogen peroxide and 2 cubic centimeters of boiled extract P. I'm recording the length of the froth formed after 40.0 seconds in centimeters. Even here, the length of the froth recorded was 0.0 after the 40 seconds. So this is an indication, or this is concluding that there is no hydrolysis of hydrogen peroxide. So this is our conclusion. Obtaining a large amount of a froth or many bubbles or a high rate of formation of the bubbles, it is an indication of high rate of hydrolysis of hydrogen peroxide. I think you are now connecting to the explanation we are to have. And the recommendation as well. After giving our observation or summarizing the investigation, our next step is about the explanation of the results. We are now to explain the results. Why do you think we have more bubbles formed here? Why do we have a very large length of a froth in A? This is an indication that the active substance in P is more active in neutral pH because we didn't bring in anything that was altering the pH of the extract, and hydrogen peroxide is more active in neutral pH, hence catalyzing a very fast rate of hydrolysis of this hydrogen peroxide so as to give more bubbles that forms a longer froth. It is also indicating that the result in B, that this active substance is moderately active. In alkaline pH, implying that more of the active substances are colliding with the moderate number of hydrogen peroxide to form more products that are reflected as bubbles, which contribute to this length of a froth. In cases C and D, it is indicated that these conditions provided the acidic pH here and boiling the extract P denatures or forms conditions that denature the active substance in P, permanently changing the active site of P in the way that it cannot form an enzyme substrate complex with hydrogen peroxide to form the products that would have formed the froth or bubbles if you used bubbles. That is the explanation. And how could you recommend? What should be your recommendation? What can be your advice to this manager to make sure that as they are purifying the cotton should be soaked in the hydrogen peroxide at neutral pH as it is more active. I mean, as the active substance in P used, actually, they should soak the cotton in extract P that is not boiled or whose temperature is not very high. I think we can see this. We were using the room temperature, we did not intubate. And still, P must be provided a neutral pH. Since the neutral pH is indicating that, or it is showing to us that the active substance in P is more active. So it will remove the traces of hydrogen peroxide within a short period of time. It will remove more of the hydrogen peroxide within a short period of time. All right, let's wait and see. I think we can now write the explanations. Let's write the explanations and then the recommendations. We said talk about each test tubes. Put the comments, put the explanations in your comments. Connect well your recommendation to the results obtained and to the scenario. Why do you recommend the company to use extract P in neutral pH and room temperature? We saw that any increase in temperature denatures the active substance in P. We also saw that changing the pH from neutral denatures or inactivates the active substance in P. Please write a valid recommendation and explanation. Please put it in the comment section or check on us in our WhatsApp group. We shall have that. Only if you have any question. And if we don't have any question or supplement, I think we can go with that.